qira'ats, it adds like layers of meanings.
Yeah, in the tafsir they'll mention to you. In tafsir of the Quran, they mention those who have the different different qira'ah, how does it impact the meaning? You see? But there's never a contradiction. That's how amazing it is.
SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah. Never contradiction. No. طيب الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد. So, is it for me? Jazakallah khair.
Got bigger.
Tatawurat, we say. You know, tatawurat is like advancements. But since on the topic of Ramadan, أنصحكم بهذا, I advise you with the likes of this. Coconut water. Why? Electrolytes.
I'm on my way to start, look.
Hydration. It's important. And the one in Lidl is good because it's 100% not from concentrate. Now, coconut water, as you know, I don't like drinking water, so coconut water, alhamdulillah, is very good. So I advise when you're breaking your fast, drink coconut water if you can handle it. If you don't like the taste of it, maybe just taste it a few times slowly, you'll become adjusted to it. Or add Himalayan salt or sea salt, a little bit to your water. Lime, cucumber, these things is good. The Muslim, why we mention these things? Because some people say, oh, why are you talking about food and drink? Wallahi, if you want to have long nights of ibadah, you have to be hydrated. You have to have good health. You know, if you want to stand in qiyam for a long time. Because you can pray tarawih and then you want to go home and do some more. So you can go home and do some more. But if your junk food is what you're eating, you're going to be struggling in this one. And when you go home, the first thing you want to do is go to sleep. Scared you're going to miss suhoor, to have more junk. Nah. You know, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is that he would have dates for suhoor. Let's try our best to imitate the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And wallahi, his discipline, self-discipline is very important. If we learn to control the desires of food, we will be upon abundant goodness. Because this is the quickest desire that we always fall for. You're not even hungry, you go past this chicken and chip shop. You smell the wings. You don't even need 6, but you buy 6. You could have done with 3, you're not hungry. But not only did you buy 6 wings, you also bought chips. Then you loaded it with burger sauce. And then what happens? You eat it, it smelled nice, and after, you regret it. Because it's a lack of discipline. You know? We have to discipline ourselves. The Muslim is to be strong. And a part of strength is by way of the foods that you eat. The foods that you eat contributes to a healthy lifestyle. The student of knowledge has to have a healthy lifestyle. It benefits them, their mind. Now, alhamdulillah. The hadith of Prophet mentioned, Ma mala'a ibn Adam wi'a'an sharrun min batni. Now, the Prophet Muhammad said, the child of Adam has not filled a vessel, a container, more evil than his stomach. يكفيه لقيمات من الطعام. Sufficient for him is mouthfuls of food. يقمن بها صلبة or sulbah. It will make his back go straight. You know when a person's hungry, how do you know they're hungry?
100 over.
They're like this. Yeah. Because their stomach's hurting, it's like... That's why, what did they used to do when they couldn't find food at the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? Who knows?
Wrap the stone.
They would wrap a stone around their stomach. A rock. To compress it. That's why you find people, what do they want to do now? Look at this. Waist trainers. Don't the women wear waist trainers now? Didn't we get this guidance from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ already? Compress your stomach area and you won't want to eat. Now.
Medically as well, isn't it? Whereas gastric bands, they bypass.
Yeah.
So they restrict the stomach, so how much volume you can take in.
Exactly. But you don't need to do that. Discipline. It may take a little longer, but it's worth it in the long run. You don't have to make no changes to your body. You have to go through no surgery, nothing. It's discipline. Wallah, it's discipline. a person who learns to discipline himself to find himself upon abundant goodness. Because when you learn to discipline yourself in one area, you find it impacts other areas. It transfers. Person wants to memorize Quran, but they have no discipline. How are you going to memorize them? I need to memorize 5 ayat a day, for example, systematically. You start, no discipline. The first day you're like, yeah, I've done my 5. Tomorrow, boy, when am I going to find time for that? It's long. I got distracted out. No, you have to have discipline. You have to have discipline. I don't think it's easy in the beginning, but with consistency, everything becomes easy with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seek Allah's aid as well. Never think that you are self-sufficient. How much time do we say this? All the time. We have to remind ourselves always that we're always in need of Allah. So, inshallah, continuing regarding the matters of Siyam, the rules that we're going to talk about today is matters of making up the fast. The rules related to Al-Qadha, making up your missed fast. The first thing that's discussed, التتابع في القضاء. يعني having to make up the days consecutively. نعم. هل يجب التتابع؟ لا. Do you have to make them up consecutively? No. And that is in consensus of the 4 madhahib. All the 4 schools of thought of fiqh say you don't have to make them up back to back. Okay? When would we have to make them up back to back? How many days left until Ramadan?
41.
No, that's until Eid, Habibi. I saw your video today. In Allah Jameel wa yuhibbu Jamal. MashaAllah. Allahumma barak. جميل حديث جميل جدا إن الله جميل ويحب الجمال. سبحان الله. Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. فالمسلم يجمل نفسه. The Muslim beautifies himself. For who? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now. So how many days until Ramadan? Roughly? 12, 11, roughly, yeah? So let's say someone has 10 days that they owe from last year. They have to make it up 10 days in a row. Now. Before Ramadan comes, now. Because if you delay till after Ramadan, the next one comes, you are sinful. And we'll discuss that shortly. So, but in general, making up the days of Ramadan is open. Okay, you don't have to do it consecutively. Just make sure my phone's on Do Not Disturb. Now, also the things that's mentioned, what's the ruling of delaying making up the fast? The ruling of, it says يجوز قضاء الصوم على التراخي في أي وقت من السنة بشرط ألا يأتي رمضان آخر. It's permissible to delay making up the fast of the previous Ramadan as long as the next Ramadan does not come. Prior to the next Ramadan coming. Now, as for قضاء تأخير قضاء رمضان بغير عذر حتى دخول رمضان آخر. Now there's a discussion. When a person delays making up Ramadan until the second Ramadan comes, what's upon this person? اختلف أهل العلم وفيه قولان. There's difference among the scholars and there's 2 opinions. The first one, يلزمه القضاء مع الفدية وهي إطعام مسكين عن كل يوم وهذا مذهب الجمهور المالكية والشافعية والحنابلة. Their first opinion, and that is the opinion of the majority of the scholars, the majority of the schools of thought, is that they have to make up the day and they also have to what? Pay and feed a poor person for each day that they have to make up. That's one who delays it until the next Ramadan. So let's say you delayed making up your fast, Ramadan has entered, you can't make it up now until after Ramadan. You have to make up the days that you have missed and pay. And in addition, you have to pay. Now, and that's the madhab of the Jamhur, the majority. The second opinion says, لا يلزمه إلا القضاء فقط. وهذا مذهب الحنفية وابن حزم من الظاهرية والشوكاني وابن عثيمين وقول بعد السلف. The second opinion is that you only have to make up the days that you missed. But obviously you have to make tawbah for why you delayed it with no reason. Now, all they have to do is make up that day without paying anything. Okay, and that's the Hanafi madhab, the Zahiri madhab, and Shawkani, which is Ahlul Hadith, now, and Ibn Uthaymin, and some of the Salaf. Another thing that's discussed, حكم صيام التطوع قبل قضاء صيام رمضان. Fasting, voluntary fast before making up the days owed of Ramadan. Example, Mondays and Thursdays, 6 days of Shawwal, Ayyam al-Bid. Okay, what's the ruling? If I owe days that I have to make up and I want to fast the Sunan, what's the ruling of this? This is another discussion that is had.
I remember in the previous lessons we discussed that it can't be combined.
Yeah, you can't combine. Because the qada is wajib, the voluntary fast is sunnah. You know, so you can't combine them, no. Of the thing that's mentioned, لا يجب أن يقضي صيام رمضان قبل صيام التطوع. It's not an obligation to make up the days you've missed of Ramadan before fasting voluntary days. Okay, so you can do 6 days of Shawwal before making up days that you owe. However, it's preferred and better to make it up beforehand. That is the better thing to do, to make it up beforehand. But if you don't make it up beforehand, you're not sinful for fasting the voluntary fast that you want to fast. Now, also of the things discussed, making up fast for the deceased. Okay, especially the one who has an excuse that they couldn't make up the days. So making up the fast for the deceased that had an excuse that they couldn't fast. So, for example, it mentions the one who died and owed days of fasting, but they couldn't fast for a legitimate reason. There's nothing upon them. You don't have to make it up on their behalf, nor do you have to pay anything on their behalf. And that is the opinion on the 4 madahib, the 4 schools of thought. We just mentioned this of missing a fast and not making up on time. We just mentioned this previously. We mentioned that you have to make it up. So the majority of scholars say you have to also pay and feed a poor person for each day. The second thing that is mentioned, making up the fast for a deceased person who delayed it without a reason. Without a reason. If a person has days to make up, whether it's by way of Ramadan, missed days, or by way of an oath, or by way of an expiation, then it's still wajib upon that person. So if they passed away, then it goes to the inheritors to make it up on their behalf. Those who would inherit from that person are the ones who would make it up on their behalf. It's not obligatory upon them, however, it's something that is highly recommended, i.e. to aid that relative in making up that which is owed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they're not able to fast on their behalf, then they feed a poor person for each day on their behalf. Now,
this is just for one person, or multiple people can do it at the same time?
Ideally, if more than one person can do it, for example, let's say there's 20 days, for example, and there's 4 people, 5 days each, for example, la ba's. No. Making up fast for the one who's alive. يجوز أم لا? Permissible or not? لا. Abu Mubashir قال لا 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 ما في تردد, no hesitation. Since he had alive, لا 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 وهو على الصواب. That's correct. You don't make up. You can't make up fast on the one on behalf of one who's still alive. وَنُقِلَ الْإِجْمَعِ. There was consensus mentioned to be regarding that, scholarly consensus. Other things that are also discussed. Someone starts their day making up the fast that they missed. This type of fast is what? Wajib, sunnah, mubah. What's the ruling of this fast? Making up the day. Wajib. So the thing that is discussed, is it allowed for them to break their fast before the time? Like to say, I can't finish this day. La. They have to finish the day. As for a fast that was voluntary, if a person started fasting and he says, I don't want to fast no more, then they can break their fast. And there's nothing upon them. You don't have to make qada, nothing. But if you start the day with the intention that you're fasting to make up for a missed fast, whether it's from Ramadan or whether it's for an oath or an expiation, you have to finish it. You're not allowed to break it. Now, that's the things that are discussed regarding qada. Now,
is that shurut applicable for also the deceased as well? For example, you make the niyyah, okay, I'm gonna make up a fast on that individual, but then, for example, let's say something happens and then you want to break it. Is it still impermissible to not break it?
I have a question for you now. The fast being made up for the deceased, what's the ruling of it?
If it had a legitimate reason.
You know what I mean? You make up that fast. Once you start making up that fast for them, what's the ruling of that fast itself? Is it wajib? Is it mustahab? What is it?
How do you recommend it?
Huh?
How do you recommend it?
It's wajib.
Oh.
If you start that fast, you're fulfilling a fast that is what? Wajib.
Oh, to do it is highly recommended, but once you start, it's now wajib.
Now,
Okay.
yeah, the live will be saved inside. So if it's not here, it's going to be on YouTube. The only time it's not here is if Instagram gets upset with me. Just keep it toned today, okay? Inshallah. We don't care about these people anyway. Knowledge is knowledge. We spread it, alhamdulillah. Al-haq la nakhaf min nashr al-haq abadan. We don't ever fear spreading the truth. Nah, never should we fear spreading the truth. If you don't like it, tough. We didn't start speaking to see who liked it. La abadan. كما يقول العرب رضا الناس غاية لا تدرك. Pleasing the people is an objective that cannot be attained. You can't please everyone. You have to make decisions in life that benefits you, that saves you from the hellfire. Even if thousands of people don't like it, as long as it's the haqq, it's pleasing to Allah, it saves you from Jahannam, what's the problem? Huh? La shay. No issue. No.
So I kind of missed it for the fourth point. When you were saying making up fast for the deceased for a legitimate reason, you either make it up for
No, if someone died and they had days left and they couldn't make it up for a legitimate reason, there's nothing upon them. You don't make it up.
Oh, there's nothing upon
There's
them.
nothing. You don't have to make it up. You don't have to pay. Nothing. It's the one who didn't have a reason,
Oh, I see.
because they're in debt now. It's sinful. So you making it up on their behalf is ihsan. Is making their affairs easy for them. Because they're going to be questioned about that. And again, wallahi, it's only from the tawfiq of Allah that you'll make it up on their behalf. From Allah's mercy that He'll have people make it up on their behalf. Subhanallah. When people love you for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, they look out for you when you die. Whether it's by catering for your family, whether it's by making sure they make dua for you, whether it's by making sure they pay off your debts and the likes. Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah died in debt. But his debt was trying to help people. It wasn't for, he got in debt for the sake of helping others. And because of how he was, the people, they came and they fulfilled his debts. They paid his debt, began a charity in his name. You see? You hear stories of people coming to Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah asking for money. And those days it was a check, innit? So he writes the check. Now when his accountant sees the check, he said, Sheikh, this person added another zero. Or they added another number. He said, give it to them because they wouldn't have done it unless they needed it. This is the mentality of Sheikh bin Baz. Subhanallah. They say, مَا كَانَ يَتَغَدَّى وَحْدَهُ. He said he never used to have lunch by himself. He would always come home and say to his family, عندنا ضيوف. We have guests. Wallahi, why? Because the people like Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah, they lived for the akhirah. The scholars, they live for the hereafter. Scholars are the ones who really bear Islam on their shoulders and deal with the criticism of people that don't have understanding. The hatred of those who lack understanding. The hatred of those who are stirred by their emotions. And you know, the emotional du'at, what's the first thing they do in times of fitna? Curse who? The scholars. Okay, if I take away from the scholars, what happens? All you're left is with ignorance and emotion. And in perfume, that's a horrible smell. A wretched smell. Calamity. Wallahu musta'an. Now how much people, his brothers here, we banned them from the masjid because they're on that manhaj. And now they're du'at, they're famous on giving lessons and talks on social media. Jahil, no knowledge. Every video they say same thing, al-wala wal-bara, kufr bit-taghut, same thing every single video. Juhal, ignorant, no knowledge at all. Don't even know Arabic language. At all, Allah musta'an. But you're ready to go and teach. What are you teaching? What are you calling to? That's from the signs that we was warned about of the hour. When we see the youth heading the circles of knowledge. And the youth and the people are young in knowledge as well. Have never sat and studied anything, but they got the most things to say. How do they capture the people? The edits are nice. The social page is nice. The graphics of their videos, mashallah. The shots, the nasheeds. Nasheeds on Islamic videos is not from the Sunnah. Did you ever hear the Prophet ﷺ was giving a talk and the Sahaba was going this behind the hadith? You ever hear this? You ever hear any Sahabi narrate when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said the hadith and he was saying La abadan. Abadan. And they're always the same nasheed, the ones that as if you're going to battle, Allah musta'an. Miskeen. May Allah protect us and show us who the people of knowledge are and allow us to benefit them from them, because there's going to come a time when they're going to be removed, and we are seeing this. Allah removes knowledge by death of the scholars, not by removing knowledge from the hearts of the people, by taking away the people and their hearts. The people of knowledge and their hearts is gone. They're ceased, gone back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When that happens, what happens? We have the ignorant, the loud people. You know that statement, the empty barrel makes the most noise. The smallest dog barks the loudest and the fastest. Look at the XL bully. So they call it now, innit? Extra large bully. We call it bull mastiff back in the days, I think. No, it's another one. XL bully, when that barks, it takes some time. But the Chihuahua, subhanallah, you see Chihuahua come, the whole body's moving at you when it's vexed. Even the legs are barking at you. Tiny. You look at this little thing, this little dog. Nothing, but this is like the person with no knowledge. Nothing, but they just bark. And when you try to talk to them, what happens? I said to someone the other day, when you have a discussion with someone based upon knowledge and they start to curse you, they start to criticize your character, what's that a sign of? They've run out of knowledge. They've run out of evidence. They've run out of principle. We don't need to refer to the Chihuahua da'is. Those who are loud and work off emotion. Chihuahua is always angry. Just like these du'at, the social media ones, that want to install hatred in the hearts of the young people. All they talk about is things that's going to make the young people feel angry and become aggressive. La. This is emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation. Whenever you find the Sahaba answering the call of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the magicians answering the call of Musa ﷺ, was it based on emotion? It was based on i'tiraf wal iman. It was based on acknowledging the truth and iman. They believed, they say, Rabbana amanna, we have believed. Knowledge has come to us, certainty has come to us, we believe. And they acted upon that. They didn't act upon, this is making me upset. This is getting me angry. I can't believe what's happening. La. The Muslim acts upon قال Allah wa qala Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The next thing that we discuss, and the last thing that we discuss in terms of relation to Siyam, al-i'tikaf. Al-i'tikaf. Al-i'tikaf هو الإقامة في المسجد بنية التقرب إلى الله عز وجل ليلا كان أو نهارا. I'tikaf is when a person makes the intention to stay in the masjid as a means of seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it is in the night or the day. Based on this definition that I've given you, is i'tikaf specific to Ramadan? Jamil. I'tikaf, can a person have the intention to spend the day and not have to spend the night? No. The intention of i'tikaf is a person is going to intends to stay in the masjid, not to chill, not to relax, not to sleep, but to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now,
Even if it's between Dhuhr and Asr.
even in between, make the intention of an i'tikaf. So I'm in the masjid for khalwa, to seclude myself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No distractions. I'm not there to chill, catch up. La. So you behave in a way that shows I'm trying to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's it. Now, so it mentions ghayatul i'tikaf. What are the objectives of i'tikaf? What are the objectives of i'tikaf? First, عكوف القلب على طاعة الله. The heart becoming attached and accustomed to obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you know, for example, doing i'tikaf with my friends is going to make me waste my time, don't do it with your friends. Go somewhere where your friends are not going to be. Now, the objective, unless you know, for example, your friends are going to encourage you to gain closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't allow them to distract you. Don't allow them to distract you. No matter how close this friend is to you. There's different types of friends. You have some friends, they're cool, they're nice companionship, but they don't benefit you. This is not the type of person you want to do i'tikaf with. If you're a person of Quran, you want to do i'tikaf with someone who's also a person of Quran. Because do you know what? For the morning after Fajr, I'm going to be revising. You're going to be revising. After that, I said, look, let's revise together. Let me listen to you, listen to me. Can you imagine 10 days doing that? How much goodness you can attain during that time? Or for someone you ain't seen for 10 years. 10 days every year. Is a conversation about every year that we've missed out on each other. Remember back in the days. There's no time for back in the days in i'tikaf. Tell that person, look, catch me in the rebound outside Ramadan. Not now. We're not here for that. You understand? It's important to set boundaries when you're going to do acts of worship like this. Because how many times have you intended to go to the masjid to do Quran, and as soon as we get there, someone comes and makes us do everything but Quran? It's principle that you have to have upon yourself. Discipline. Remember, back to discipline. If I go to the masjid and say, look, akhi, wallahi, today I actually came to the masjid because I need to revise my juz. Or I need to memorize my pages. I got Quran with my teacher. I need to memorize. Let me do this first, and then if you're still around, we'll catch up, inshallah. That person might say, do you know what? I should be doing that too. And guess what? You get the reward of showing them that. Or you might see this, you know what? I actually wanted to do Quran, but I can see this brother, he needs some time. Come do Quran with me. Don't say, okay, I'm going to give him time with what he wants. Say, okay, come, let's do Quran together. You don't have to read? I'll teach you. Khair. Always try and make your companionships upon goodness. Either you have a friend that you know, in their companionship you benefit. They're going to say a reminder, something's going to remind you of Allah, or you're able to benefit them. And when you benefit a person, what happens? The benefits get recycled. They will one day tell you a benefit forgetting that they learned it from you. And your duty when they tell you is to act like you've never heard it before. That was the way of the Salaf. From manners, they say, I would hear a young person narrating a hadith that I heard maybe 30 years before he was born. But I would pretend it's the first time I've heard it. This is the manners of people of knowledge. Also, when they start narrating the hadith, don't start finishing for them. Let them finish the hadith themselves. Let them say the benefits. Oh yeah, I know this, and this is what's going to happen next. La, don't do that. This is also considered from bad manners. Let that person shine in that moment in time. Let them have that moment. Because they're sharing something that means something to them, and they're going to actually feel an increase of iman sharing it with someone else. Even if that person already knows it. But as soon as you cut them, what happens? Shaitan's going to enter their heart. Shaitan's going to enter their heart, and they might even detest you, and their iman might drop because of the anger they start to feel towards you. Nah. This is manners. Now, barakallahu fiqh. Also, of the benefits of i'tikaf, جمع القلب عليه ووقف النفس له. It's combining your heart and your soul in that moment in time. Having your heart and your soul present for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. You know, subhanAllah, when Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah was in prison, for years he was in prison. Why? Because spreading the sunnah, spreading tawheed, teaching me that which is correct. He said when he's in prison, هذا خلوة مع ربي. This is seclusion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When him and Ibn al-Qayyim was in prison together, revising. Subhanallah. Imagine you're a sheikh with his student, both mountains of knowledge. Memorize hadith upon hadith, Quran. That's their days. You know, imagine the guards walking past and they're just revising Quran. Khalas. Revising hadith. You won't even be able to understand what they're going through that time. You're seeing punishment. For them, they're seeing ibadah. That's it. SubhanAllah. But sometimes you're with a person all day and Allah's not mentioned once. This is the worst kind of friendship. You know what? I start to see videos that I really like. Brothers that are young and they be wearing like a tracksuit or something in New York. And one's got electric scooter, they're chilling, and then what they had, like the little argument. What they're arguing about? Whose qira'ah is the best? So this one's just sat in the Quran with this qira'ah. He says, what? Watch. And he comes and recites his qira'ah. And you look and you're like, look how they're just enjoying the Quran. Because now young people, when they think about memorizing Quran, they see it as a punishment. But they're showing people, no, we enjoy this life of the Quran. Because the Quran in your heart, you can't even describe it. Wallahi, you can't describe it. You can't describe it. You're walking randomly and you start saying some ayat. Other guys are out there spitting bars, memorizing song lyrics, and saying that, but you're there saying the words of Allah. And when you're saying it, it's not random. That ayah means something to you. When you actually contemplate, like, subhanAllah, why do I always recite that ayah, for example? You just walk and you start reciting. This is amazing. Not only do you start reciting randomly, you're getting reward for every letter you just recited. Your heart has to be present, discipline of the heart and the nafs upon that attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, al-khalwatu bihi subhanahu. It mentions that seclusion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That seclusion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You sleep, you wake up, you worship Allah. And when you're in itikaf, don't only read Quran. At times just sit there and remember Allah. La ilaha illallah, subhanallah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Do this and you will find your heart starts to soften. Gradually, the more you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your heart becomes soft. And that's when you're able to stand in the salah and you start to weep. You start to weep because your heart is soft. And this weeping is a weeping of joy. It's like a cleanse. A cleanse from all of the weight on your shoulders from your sins. Remembering tawbah, remembering to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remembering Allah's favors upon you. Remembering how Allah has told you about all of the people that preceded us. And what happened to them. But Allah chose you to be upon Islam. Not only did Allah choose you to be upon Islam, when every Muslim in your area is not in the masjid praying salah, Allah chose you. Allah bestowed His mercy upon you and made you someone who's in the masjid. You're someone who's praying salah. When someone else is sleeping, when someone else is concerned about filling their belly, you are standing, waiting for sujood so you can make your dua. Who put you in that place? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you start to weep because you are grateful. You start to weep remembering subhanallah. Look how it was a couple years ago. Years before that. A way that I was disobedient to Allah. Look how Allah has made me now. You weep out of gratitude. You weep because you're seeing people are going through atrocities. They're being oppressed. But Allah has given you security, good health. All of these things. You weep because you know the only one who can relieve you from the hardship you're going through in this moment in time is who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to learn to have khalwa with Allah Azza wa Jal. We have to learn to have seclusion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we remind ourselves all of the favors Allah has given us. All of the tests that we've been through. How many tests do we know we've been through? Allah has made a way out for us. When for us, in that moment in time, we couldn't see no light at the end of the tunnel. We just saw darkness. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted us a way out. How many times were we sick? And we was in the worst situation ever, but then Allah granted us shifa. All of these favors a person has to remind themselves of and show gratitude. And that's in that seclusion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you remember Allah, you remember the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. And that's why in the hadith, سَبْعَةٌ يَذِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ذِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ذِلَّ إِلَّا ذِلُّهُ. The seven who be granted shade by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day there's no shade. The one who remembers Allah until his eyes begin to shed tears. Crying is not a weakness for men, no. Cry for who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it shows your heart is attached to Allah. Your heart is attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the things that we have to start preparing ourselves for. When Ramadan comes to us now, it's not like last year. This is a chance that we get to get close to Allah. Shaitan, the major one, has been taken away from us. We're able to do more than we're able to do in any normal time. You haven't done itikaf before. And you don't have an excuse not to do so. Try and do it. Try and discipline yourself. I want to stay in the masjid 10 days. Don't worry about, but when am I going to get my Eid haircut? No one cares about that. It's about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your hair's rough, just wear a kufi and eat, khalas. No problem, solution done. Don't worry about these things. How is someone going to deter spending 10 nights with Allah Azza wa Jal because of a haircut, a trim? You need your Eid though, buy it before the last 10 days. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Shopping the day before. This is the last 10 days. There's no time to go shopping. The only time you have now is ibadah. These last 10 days, maybe your last 10 days you have of a Ramadan. You may never get one again. So you're going to let it go to waste by shopping? Wallahi, do your shopping for Eid tomorrow. End of the month is payday, right? Do it now. Don't wait. Don't let nothing take away your time in Ramadan. Don't let nothing steal from that time. Because the Prophet Muhammad mentioned الصلوات الخمسة الجمعة إلى الجمعة رمضان إلى رمضان مكفرات ما بينهن ما اجتنب كبائر. Between the 5 daily prayers, between Jum'ah to Jum'ah, Ramadan to Ramadan, they expiate the sins that occur between them as long as you stay away from the major sins. So don't let that time go to waste. Now,
Ustad, I've got a few questions. With regards to itikaf, or the condition of khalwa, like seclusion, is not a condition for it, correct? It's just a recommended.
no, we said these are objectives.
Objectives, okay.
Objectives of itikaf.
And
What do you benefit from it?
yeah. And with regards to the last 10 days, is there like a hadith or
The Prophet
anything?
Muhammad ﷺ would do itikaf last 10 days of Ramadan, every Ramadan. And his wives, they did it after his death. His wives practiced itikaf in the masjid after his death. That's why it's mentioned to be done in Ramadan the last 10 nights, because that was the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now,
If there is a community, and in that community, the masjid don't do itikaf, but they accept people to do that just over at night. Does it still count as itikaf? Because you don't do the day in the masjid, but you can do the night in the masjid.
so what do they do in the day? Do they close the masjid?
They don't close it. They just leave it open, just normal salah. You can't leave there, just like itikaf. So is it still valid as itikaf? Does it count?
If they don't advertise that they're doing itikaf, but they allow you to stay there, you make your intention you're doing itikaf.
Just over the night?
But you can stay there all 10 nights.
No, just over one night. Then the next day you move back to your house. You don't bring nothing. Like your food, everything you have it at your house.
But do they say they're only doing it for one night?
No, just all the 10 nights. But it's just like you just have to stay there for the night. That's it. Does it count as?
If you stay there the next night, would they tell you to go home?
Yeah, you go home the next day.
No, but would they tell you to go home?
Yeah, they would.
Why?
In the morning. In the morning.
Oh, in the morning.
Yeah.
It's better to go somewhere else. Unless you're leading salah there, for example. But if you have no obligation to be there, go somewhere else. Because there's other places you can do itikaf. So there's no, unless there was nowhere to itikaf, that was the last option, then no problem. But if there's other options, go somewhere else.
Would you still get the reward of the itikaf?
Wallahu a'lam. Because you have the ability to go somewhere else, Allah knows best. But as I mentioned, your intention wouldn't be the last 10 nights, so it would be you done itikaf for that one night, for example. So you may be rewarded for the period of time you stayed there. But if you want to do itikaf as the Prophet Muhammad did it, then go to a different masjid. Me personally, I'm against the community masjids. What do I mean by that? Turkish, Kurdish, Somali, Eritrea, Nigeri, Fulani, Ugandi. I don't have anything against. Because they have Ugandan community, but there's a need for it. Where they have it, it's not that it's intentionally only for Ugandans. It doesn't mean that. But I mean, there's some places they open it where they don't need it. They have a masjid there. This is what I'm talking about. Okay? Where they have a masjid of the Sunnah, for example. Because what happens, the masajid are in need of finance from the community itself, right? If we all say, I want a masjid from our own community, that makes us weak. Because that one comes to you saying we need help. But we need help. You see? And why is it that I have to have a masjid for my people? Language barrier. If you're in England, you have to learn English. That's just the reality. If you want to survive here, learn the language of the people. But beyond that, as Muslims, you need to learn what? Arabic. Khalas. But because what happens, some places, they don't have a masjid. They rent a place to pray Taraweeh. What are you doing? Go to the masjid. Go to your local masjid and pray Taraweeh. Don't rent a place just for Taraweeh. La. That's a waste of money. Rather, it's better you put that money into a masjid. It's better for you. There's more reward in that than saying I have to do something for my community. La. What's my community? Where did this come? Didn't the prophets all say, Ya qawmi, my people, wa ummatu Muhammad sallallahu lil jami' is for everyone. You see, and when they say Ya qawmi, there were different tribes, different nations among them, as that's the nature of Allah's created all of us. But when we start saying, and I said to one of the uncles yesterday, he said, the problem is some people, they open a masjid because it's for my community, but they don't know how to maintain a masjid. They don't know how to run a masjid. So what happens? Those who always take control are the elders. The elders in what? Age. Not the elders in knowledge. And sometimes when you're trying to be a person of the sunnah, the elders, after Yom al-Jum'ah, Al-Fatiha. You know those masajid? After the khutbah, they say Al-Fatiha. Everyone recites Surah Al-Fatiha. They do it as jama'ah. What is this? Bid'ah. You try to say, look, what is this? They say, but you know the elders. So what happens? We can't talk about sunnah and bid'ah because they're elders. They're in charge. No. The masjid has to be established by people of the sunnah. People who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm not trying to dispraise the efforts people have in make opening masajid. When there's a need, there's a need. But when it's not done properly, it causes more problems. It causes division. And next thing you know, they established the masjid. It didn't go as they wanted to go. So what happens? One team breaks off and they get another masjid around the corner. What is this? Allah musta'an. May Allah rectify our affairs. The last objective of i'tikaf, al-inqita' an al-ishtighal bil-khalqi wa bi-umur al-dunya, is that a person cuts ties with the worldly affairs. A person cuts ties with the worldly affairs. They're waiting for me, yeah? They're waiting for me, yeah? What's the ruling of i'tikaf? Wajib? Sunnah. I'tikaf is sunnah. لِلْرِجَالِ وَلِلنِّسَاء, for men and women. May Allah give us the facilities that we can allow sisters to do i'tikaf in this masjid. Ameen. Because sisters, wallahi, they're the backbone of the community, especially when it comes to fundraising, raising the children, bringing the children to the masjid. Wallahi, we need all of us to come together we have to change this. We have to work hard to change the sisters' side, Allah musta'an. This is why sisters don't come to the masjid. You see, we have to change this. This is not acceptable. But as much as it's responsible on those who are in charge of the masjid, as a community, we have to come together to make these changes. That we're able to have facilities that sisters can do i'tikaf because it's sunnah for them too. There's no i'tikaf in the house. This is not correct. I'tikaf is only in the masjid. And the wives of the Prophet, they did i'tikaf. But we'll try our best. I spoke to management today. some of the team on the ground that we're going to try our best to facilitate something at least. If they can't do itikaf, that they will be open for them to be here as long as possible in those last 10 nights. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
Ustad, did you mention that Prophet ﷺ's wives, they did i'tikaf?
Yeah, after his death.
Okay.
Because there's a story about it. When he was alive, he came to the masjid, there was tents. And it was basically, he taught them that this was not from ikhlas. The way it was done, the story has slipped me now, but the way it was done, he disciplined them in educationally to say, it has to be built upon ikhlas. He came to the masjid to see different tents in the masjid. And they were competing with each other. Naam, and he said no, to leave, told him to leave. He didn't permit them to do i'tikaf. Because for the wife, she has to seek permission from her husband. He didn't permit them to do i'tikaf that year. The way it was, their tent was established in the masjid. But after his death, they did i'tikaf in Ramadan. After his death. Now.
What if you lead salah like in a different masjid? You do i'tikaf, let's say in this masjid, and you need to lead salah in like Lucia.
No problem. Go and come back.
You go that night. What if they
You
want
go
to stay?
and you come straight back after you leave the salah.
What if they want you to stay for Qiyam al-Layl?
You're doing, that's salah still, isn't it? If you're going to lead, you're still doing the salah. But if they do it, if they ask them to do i'tikaf, then allow you to do i'tikaf. No problem. If they don't do it to the public, you're leading salah, say, I need to do i'tikaf. Let me do i'tikaf, khalas. That's my condition. They want you, they're going to say, yeah. If they have shower facilities, alhamdulillah, khalas. If the masjid doesn't have shower facilities, you can leave, get a shower, come straight back. They discuss, for example, the masjid that you do i'tikaf does not do Salatul Jummah. So you can do i'tikaf and leave to go to the masjid for Jummah and come straight back. Okay. If there was a nice rooftop, you can chill on the rooftop. Here, I don't, liability, insurance and stuff, don't go up there. Okay? You might not make it back. Your chilling on the roof will be inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allah musta'an. Now. I'tikaf, as you mentioned, can be done in any masjid as well. Okay? There's no maximum days and there's no limited days that you can do i'tikaf. It's open. It's open. Nothing has come to restrict it. However, as the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in the last 10 days of Ramadan, he would do it and he would leave once Maghrib had came. Maghrib, that was announced to be the last day of Ramadan before the day of Eid. Okay? Now, of the things that break your i'tikaf, and we'll finish on this, is leaving with your whole body outside the masjid. So let's say I put my head out the door like this, just to check Yaqub at the store. My i'tikaf is sahih. But if I jump out the whole body, khalas, I broke it. Okay? Intercourse breaks your i'tikaf. If you have a wet dream during i'tikaf, it doesn't break your i'tikaf, but you can have a shower. You have to have a shower. No, you can. You have to. You have to make ghusl. Now, kissing and touching with desires is not permitted also.
Does it break your? Just not.
It doesn't say it breaks it, but it says it's ijma' that is not permitted. Now. And obviously apostasy breaks your i'tikaf. You have to enter i'tikaf in a state of purity, i.e. you can't be in a major impurity. If you needed wudu, no problem. But if you needed to make ghusl, you have to make ghusl before entering into i'tikaf. That's all the things that's also discussed. Now, so we'll stop there inshallah ta'ala. That's the main things that is discussed in the books of fasting. And maybe next week we'll do something related to the Quran, virtues of the Quran. This is an encouragement to, prepare for this month of Ramadan with a strong relationship with the Quran, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now,
if there was a sister, say someone at work or someone that's not a member of your mahram, and then say in the last 10 days of Ramadan for it, say you're in itikaf and you're a single brother, but you're close to them. So they say, nah, you're not home, I've cooked some meal from iftar.
tell them don't do it again.
Nah.
Even in work, don't become friends with the opposite gender. Never.
No.
There's no friendship with the opposite gender. Okay? Don't even tell them you're doing itikaf. If they say there's food in the masjid, don't worry about it. Don't give them the opportunity to give you food. Okay? Because we have to safeguard our religion. Because shaitan is the third person. Even though it seems like something done that is good, what happens? That food was nice. Too nice. Yeah, when you're out of itikaf, come over. There's more. Then what happens? Sheikh, if they're pregnant, can we still get married? It sounds funny, but this is a reality that I have to deal with. And the one who deceives themselves, the one who thinks they're safe from these things. When you think you're safe, Allah will test you. Wallahi, don't think you're strong to handle any situation. Because you don't know what will happen in that time. And a Muslim was never taught to put themselves in the front line of fitna. They were always taught to flee away from it. Now, even, for example, the only way I would say is permitted if, let's say there's a sister you're talking to for marriage and there's a wali involved and he permits that she can bring you food.
Yeah, but in that case, in that particular case...
And she shouldn't bring it to you either.
No.
The wali should bring it.
Oh, okay, that case. What I was going to add, you cleared it now. What I was going to add was, in that case, it wasn't actually the sister cooking the food. It's the mum who knows you, but it's clear
Same
because
thing.
you said the friendship, man.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah.
That's all the sad realities that we have today. That in the workplace, people become too friendly with the opposite gender. There's no friendship. No friendship. There's kindness and good manners. It does not mean friendship.
No.
You see? Because gifts win the heart. Prophet said, Tahadu tahabu, give gifts and you'll love each other. If an opposite genders give me gifts randomly and stuff, it's not random. Unless it's like, teachers, they give students their gifts and stuff like this, vice versa. We understand that. But let's say just for the sake of it, I'm going to give you something. Why? No, just for the sake of it. No, there's a reason. Don't be deceived. And I said, don't think yourself strong enough to handle these situations. Wallahi la. If she says, I'm going to make you feel, say, la, I'm good. Jazakallah khair. In all due respect, I have food. Alhamdulillah, don't worry. That's sorted. But may Allah reward you for your intention. But if you're single and she's good, get married. She's hinting something, brother. She's waiting for you to say the word. Speak to the dad or the mum. Don't stay single. May Allah grant everyone who's not married a good marriage, good wife. Ameen. Yeah. We'll stop there, inshallah. I have duties to go and give a reminder upstairs. A reminder of knowledge and a reminder on the table, tennis table. Barakallahu feekum. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Quick question.